So let's talk about presidents. Who's been president?
Well, we all have.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Who's
we've all
been
been
president twice?
We all have.
No,
No?
no.
Didn't want to do it?
No, I went to be president the second time and nobody would run for DG, so I threw my hat in the ring and ran with it.
Nice.
So you jumped a level.
Yeah, I'm a cleaner. I found that the very first time I became the president because our club was sort of falling apart. And they didn't have a president, and I said, I'll try it. I didn't really have any experience, but I still stepped in there and I said, I'll try this. And I trusted the process. I learned Robert's Rules of Order through going to district convention a couple times, and I thought that I could run a meeting. And my big thing about the meetings is I wanted to make sure that our meetings didn't go past 9 o'clock, because if you keep people there too long, that's when they get tired and they get burned out, they don't want to stay. Very true. So I found that I kind of volunteered for the role for a little, because I wanted the personal growth. I knew there'd be personal growth there. What do you guys think?
Personal growth is why I did it. My first time as president was a long time ago, probably about 15 years ago. And back then, you had to run an election, because you had to win the parts of the membership to become president. It wasn't.
So just that vote of that confidence.
But I mean, the first time I ran, I didn't win.
But did you do the logical route? Did you do vice president and president?
Yeah.
See, I did too. And for me, everyone wanted me to, when I came to Kelowna, everyone wanted me to be treasurer, right? I didn't want to be treasurer, so I ran for and bought lots of drinks, had a Mickey of rye and a Mickey of rum and a Mickey of everything sitting out there before you even got to the bar, and I was buying drinks because I wanted to be the vice president and move up. Probably a professional development thing too.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to be the treasurer, and I was lucky enough. I beat out Scott McKinnon.
See, and I didn't follow the process because I was so new. My first year, I was right away gaming director, and then right after that, I was like, somebody said, no, somebody nominated me for president in a meeting, and I went, oh, I didn't even know about. I respectfully declined. I just went and nodded my head, and then nobody ran against me, but I still ran a campaign. I made cookies, and I put labels on them, and I did all that because, you know what, it was fun. And I thought to myself, it was a really good way to show other people about what the process is if there's an election. So even if you're going to get in by acclamation, run like you're running an election. Put it forward like it's an election, like you may not win. Put the effort in, because if you're going to put the effort in as if you're running an election, you're going to continue to put the effort in all year.
Well, Dean, you had a great win. Somebody that went along with the process, and they just thought they were going to be president until Dean ran off the floor for the presidential.
Exactly. I ran an election. I put up posters around the room that said, "Go Green," and he did nothing.
Go Riders.
I also had a speech prepared, and that's part of, once again, professional development.
Yeah.
You know, just prepare a speech. You'll impress them.
Yeah.
One of the things, too, that I found about running for a position is it will affect you professionally. Yeah. Because professionally, when you go to run for something, which happened to me in my profession, when I went to run, I knew to be there early. I knew how to dress to run an election. I knew what swag to give out. I knew to shake everybody's hand and introduce myself. And it went a long way. And so professionally, what I learned from running an election alone, to become the president, was like, it was huge to my career. I think it makes a statement to say that you're not giving me the job, although I am going to get it, but I care, and it's important. And I think if you do run for the president, you need to realize you need to have realistic goals. You know, like If your meeting is, if your meetings are random, they're not run, you can come up with, my goal is to make sure I have a meeting every second Wednesday or the first Wednesday of every month, and to make sure the agenda is sent out on time, and that when we're there, we respect the people that are there, we value their input, and we make sure everybody's heard, we give everybody a chance to talk, and that alone could be your goal.
Oh, exactly. Same thing as if you are in a circumstance or in a club where your meetings are running so late that people are disinterested and no longer responsive. So your goal might be to say, you know what, by 9 o'clock we're going to be done, and that's it. You need to, because family is important, and to get back into life and back to your home lifestyle, because you need to get up in the morning and function as a human being in your careers and your life. It's not the be-all, end-all. You need to compartmentalize that part of your life. As important as kin is to all of us, that's why we're still here and advancing further in our kin careers from when we were presidents. It's important to slate the time and to not let it spread too much and thus draining.
Each club has a different dynamics, a different way of functioning. First time I was president was with the Rutland Club. We amalgamated with the Kelowna Club, and the second time I was president was totally different than the first time. We didn't really have a campaign. We didn't have competition. The competition was to make our club grow. We were at 9 members, and nobody wanted to take on the presidential role, and so we had to figure out not just who wanted to take on the role, but who wanted to lead the club to the next stage, and we made a 3-year plan to get the club from point A to point B. So each dynamic is a little different, and I've had experience of both ways, being able to enhance our club different ways, different makes, different models. But anybody that's interested in becoming a president shouldn't be held back by fear or anything like that. If I was a new individual wanting to come in, what would be your best advice for a new person wanting to be president?
Be open. Be open and seek the advice of your, I don't want to say senior members, I don't mean senior members as in older members, but those that have been in kin for a longer time. They start to feel that they're not as valued, and they're a huge, huge resource of information. And I think we need to remember that and be respectful of their knowledge and seek them out. And when you create your team and people come in as other club level positions, like your secretary and your treasurers, look to the senior members in your club that have held those positions and acquaint them with the newer members and say, please assist them, because that puts a value on what they've given back to kin, and that makes kin important to them again.
We're so bad as kins in following through on being mentors.
Yes.
We have to do that.
It's important.
We're going to lose.
Yeah.
We're already losing good members by not mentoring.
It's not about criticizing, and so a new president coming in, I would say to them, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say, the meeting's a little bit out of order. I need some help getting it back to order. Eventually, you'll be able to say, bringing it back to the motion, we're supposed to be talking to the motion or the amendment to the motion, keeping it back on track. But the big thing about being the president is what you need to understand is you're chairing the meeting. So that's exactly, it's up to the rest of the people what they want to do. So at any time, you can ask the people, what do you want to do? We're running a little bit off track. Do you want to continue being off track, or would you like me to go back to the agenda? You can put that back to them and say, where do you want me to go from here? Because that's what a president does. They chair a meeting. They keep things under control. They bring order back to where there's chaos. And you need to remember that. So as a president, at any time, you can ask the rest of the members, help me out here, we're a little bit off track, are we going to stay up this way, or would you like me to bring you back?
And what that in turn also does is it takes the responsibility off of you as one particular person, because it's still a democratic society. So if in a whole, everybody wants to continue in perhaps at that moment a chaotic conversation, you might be getting an answer. Or if they say, no, we're done, we need to get it back on track, they as the democratic society are making that decision. You're not controlling them, you're letting them control what they want to do. So I think that's another thing, is that we need to remind people that it's a democratic society, and by doing that, when you're chairing a meeting, lets people know that you're not trying to control every situation. You don't need to. That's not your job.
I think one of the most important things that I would advise the new president is to be prepared. Don't come to your meeting not knowing what your agenda is, what your, who's going to be your sheriff, or whatever the facts are. Be prepared. You're there to run the meeting, so come ready to do so.
Yeah. On your agenda, you know, when it says Kin Song, appoint somebody. If they don't show up for a meeting, have a backup plan. Same thing with your sheriff, same thing with, the order of business. Know what your correspondence is, so that it's pre-listed on your agenda, so people look at it and go, oh, we've got this and this, and oh, why is that there? Because that's just a form letter we get every year. So you can predetermine what's probably going to move on to new business and what's just going to get filed.
Yeah, and also, on the national website and the national packages that we get all the time, they more or less list what you should be doing in April, what you should be doing in March. Like,
Critical
really,
path.
Yeah, you need to plan your whole year.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do as president?
Mm-hmm.
One, plan it so that you're in control of it, but two, make it your own. Have fun.
And one of the things that Ken has done for us is they've taken the big book, which is this thick, of Robert's Rules of Order, which was just a guy with the last name Roberts that decided to make a bunch of rules, and they've made Kin Rules of Order, so they've made them simple. Figure it out, learn them, talk to somebody, know what you're doing. So the biggest thing about a meeting is the only time you discuss anything is if there's a motion on the table, and if there's a seconder, there has to be as a seconder, you're not saying, I agree with that motion. You're saying, I agree, you put that motion on the table, and I agree it warrants discussion. So once you put the motion on the table and I second it, then we can all talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so understand how the rules of order work, understand how to use them, understand when somebody stands up and say, I call for orders of the day, if you're following an agenda, just that's a tool. That's an amazing tool that can help guide you, so you always know where you're going next.
And you brought up a good point that will be brought out in all these sessions, is the President's Manual. There's so much on the national website, but the one big thing that each club, I shouldn't say everyone, you need to download that President's Manual. There's so much in there. I mean, even if you download and print off just the table of contents, you don't have to print out all 200 pages,
Mm-hmm.
but if you've got that, you can say, oh, I've got a problem. Oh, it's in there, and go refer to it
then.
And always remind people that although they disagree, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people will put a motion on the table, and it will say, I motion to give $200 to the Saving the Cat Society, whatever. Even if you don't agree with the Saving the Cat Society, you need to allow that person to speak, allow them to put the motion on the table, and allow people to have discussion. And then whether or not that motion goes through, it is not personal. It's called democracy. They say they want to give that $200 if the majority of the people agree, they agree. If you don't agree, you have to remember to say to the President, President Anita, through to Ken Paul, I thank you for your words. I disagree respectfully with what you're saying. I don't like cats, if that's what you want to say. But at the end of the day, you're going through the President, you're going to the person, and you're talking about the issue, it's not personal.
as a president, the one thing you can never let anything get is personal. You need to remind people to stick to the issue, stick to what you're talking about, and don't go any further.
And keep it respectful, and afterwards, have a beer. I mean, it's all about, it's a social function, and we're trying to do business and socialize and have fun and make our community a better place.
So...
Hold on, don't stop laughing.
Well, that's the clappy thing.
So as a new president, we all had anticipation, anxiety, running our first meeting, what people were going to expect from us, what we were going to expect from ourselves and our club. I know my number one goal when I became the Cranbrook Connect Club president in my second year was to make us visible. Because we were invisible. Everywhere in Cranbrook was Kinsman Park, Kinsman Spray Park, Kinsman tennis courts. The Connects were always there, but quiet. I'm not quiet. So I decided to make some noise. So I made sure that every time we did something, we got ourselves in the paper. And you don't have to have a reporter there. You don't have to phone the press. You can submit. Make sure you take pictures at events. Submit the picture with a small article. Send it to every small paper, big paper within 120 kilometers. You're going to get in some of them.
You have to nowadays
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Don't
wait.
Don't not do that.
You have to take the bull by the
Because the reporter's
horns.
not coming out
No.
to cover
Right.
anything.
No. And so we did that, and then it was like, oh, it wasn't cadets were like, oh, you're a cadet. Like, we don't pack guns. Some days we're a kinet, not a cadet. There's a huge difference. And then you merge into becoming a kin club, and they're like, what's kin? And you're like, kinsmen. They're like, oh, it's like, oh, okay. Everybody knows kinsmen. So that was my number one goal, was to make us not invisible. And I don't think I had any other goal other than that. And I think if you have one lofty goal, that's okay. Or you can make it smaller. Maybe membership, increasing your membership is a goal, which is huge for us because we all know we're in membership decline. That's very important. I brought in 3 members in 1 year. It was a goal, but it wasn't something that I put as a high priority. It just happened because I was keen and I was excited and met people on elevators and talked to people, and it's like, well, what do you do when you're gone on the weekends? Oh, I'm going to a kin function. What's that? It's like, oh, you tell them. It's like Rotary Alliance, but better because we're Canadian. Well, my goal is about commitment. I get frustrated because people sort of hide behind the fact that I'm just a volunteer. Being a volunteer doesn't mean you can let people down. It means that if you commit to next Thursday to going and giving out a bursary, please be there. Please make it on your calendar, make it a priority. I think my goal for sure is that I need to hold people accountable. If you say you're going to be there, I need you to be there. And so this year, for sure, as the vice president of my club, I plan to talk to people and say, okay, you're volunteering for this, so do you have your planner out? One of the things I'm going to do as vice president is I'm going to supply each person with my own planner that you buy at the dollar store, and I'm going to hand it to them, and I'm going to say, this is your kin guide. If you say you're going to be there on the 8th of June because it's bursary night, please be there. Please don't tell me that you can't be.
And if you can't
be,
find a replacement.
find your replacement. Please don't leave it up to me.
Exactly. Be responsible.
I think for me, the first time that I was president, I was 25. So for me, it was about personal growth and development, just kind of within me. I mean, at that time, the club was 24 members, and they were mostly, now those members have moved on to K40, and I still look up to them. But the second time when I was president, and Paul can probably talk about his first and second time too, being different, you know, our club was in a membership decline, and I went back to those same members in the K40 Club and asked for their help. We built that orientation program that districts use or has fashioned, developed, and so it was a lot different in the second time than what the goals were. You know, we took on conventions, and that's something in itself you had to keep. We had 8 members to put on that convention at Okanagan Resort. And so we're trying to build up membership, we're trying to put on a big project. There was a lot, and so yeah, did I run against somebody who was green? Yeah, for a reason, because I was worried about our club. And then they ran a campaign, and he didn't, so.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
Well, the first time, it was definitely personal development. We were an established club. We had professionals who are now community leaders in our club, and so it was about being able to stand up and talk in front of those without the fear, with, you know, moving forward. The second time was very similar, where we had a club of 9 members, and we needed to establish our identity again. Along the way, though, some of the goals that have crept up, and it doesn't matter whether it's at club level, zone level, or district level, communication. It's huge. Doesn't matter what level, and it needs to be respectful. Sometimes with all the gadgets that we have and all the technology, we lose
The human touch.
absolutely, and that's what we're all about. And if we lose that, we're going backwards in my mind. So that's one of my biggest goals.
I think for communication too, especially with a new club president, in the dynamics of a lot of our clubs, you have the younger members that are really, really savvy with social media, and then you have your older members that are not as savvy, and really, they want a phone call. So that's when you, as a president, take the onus off of yourself as president, and you go to your team, you go to the people that are on your executive and say, okay, you as registrar, these are the members that don't respond well to email. They may have it, it's listed, but they don't go on it. They might go on it weekly, monthly, annually, because their child has said, Mom, you're not answering my emails. Pick up the phone, saying, are you coming to the meeting next Monday, or did you get the information? And that human contact for them will make a huge difference. Don't just say, oh, they don't look at their email. Make the effort. That's why you have a team, and you appoint your team member as a new registrar to do those things, to keep everybody in the loop.
We have to remember too, though, that I don't want to reveal your age on live television.
49 in 1 week.
50 in 2. But that's my point. We are past what Hal Rogers set for the age limit. And so when, yes, we maybe want that phone call, but we also have to gear up too. I mean, at work now, I have to spend a lot of time. Every time that little thing in the corner goes off, I have to go read that email. And so, you know, we can't just keep saying that, oh, well, I didn't get a phone call, I'm not coming to the meeting. So us as older members, we have to appreciate that the younger members are into their texting and
you also, you have to also read the culture of your club. Because the culture of your club, you know, it means a lot. Like right now, in my club, there's a lot of new members. And a lot of new members that are just like they're sponges. They're sort of sucking it up. And one of the things you have to remember is they're allowed to make mistakes. Recently, I handed the Society Act paper to the secretary, and she's only been a member for a couple of years. And I said, here you go, this is how you fill it out. And she filled it out, and she made a mistake, because the part that said, when was your annual general meeting, she put, we didn't have one, but we did have one. But I forgot to identify it, because I forgot that the culture of my club right now is that many, many of them are really new. And, you know, and the ones that are older maybe aren't at the meetings or they're somewhere else. So lots of times you can have a lot of brand-new members there, and you have to take the time to actually go through every line. You have to make sure that, I should have owned that mistake, even though she did. It was my mistake for not going through it. So, and you have to make sure that the older members that have been there like 15 years don't sit and squash ideas that didn't work before, because the new ideas that some of them are coming up with could work. But you know, you not only need to encourage them to succeed, you need to allow them to fail.
That's the
Well,
learning pattern.
Yeah, exactly, because we learn from our mistakes, from the time we're very small until we're very old.
You guys also notice that the younger members are asking, they're going, what are the important dates during the year? I was asked that just at the last meeting, and did you guys notice in the last Teen magazine, the back page, flip it over, and here's the whole year?
Yeah.
And so you know what, I spent a Sunday afternoon and I put that
In your calendar.
on our Google Calendar,
Yeah.
which is on our website, and now hopefully, you know, plus that page should be taken out and put somewhere.
And
because-
that's important as an incoming president, to know what your commitments are going to be, a CLF, an FLC, Women's Convention, all of those things. You need to know when those are, so that if you're thinking about making that transition from just a club member to a club president, that you know those are the commitments you need to make. Not just, I'd like to be, but really you do need to. It's important for you to represent your club there, and by you setting the standard of representing your club, you're going to get other club members to go, right? To say, these are important dates. And yes, things do come up, but it is part of a commitment that, you know, we make as stepping forward into those positions.
And the other thing too is those dates are almost always
Always
the
the
same
same.
every year.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you know, I don't get it, like even we have a ball tournament in September every year on the same date. It's 2 days. Like, you expect commitment from your members, 2 days, same weekend every year. You know, tell the family, make the commitment. Sometimes we always use it as an excuse.
So, the one thing about being the president is you're going to run into challenges. And different things are going to come up during different meetings where there's conflict or difficult personalities or people stifling discussion. One of the things is, although Kin rules of order that are there, they're not there to stifle discussion. So new members can get off track. They can get themselves a little bit confused as to what they're supposed to talk about. You need to know as the president when to let it go and let them finish, and when to redirect them and guide them. But again, you have to do it respectfully. So I think that my most difficult situation is when I was challenged by a member that their body language and their tone was derogatory and accusatory, and it was intimidating to me. And what I did was I asked the rest of the members, would we like to continue with what this member is saying, or would we like to move on? And an uplifting moment as well that came out of that challenging role is that the rest of the delegation agreed with me, and they said, let's move on. So I thanked that member for their comment, and we moved on. And I found that, although conflict usually brings out, it's not always bad, sometimes it brings out, good things. It's the same as challenges. Challenges, if you can respectfully skirt around it so that you have support and still make every member feel whole, you've done a lot. What's been the most challenging for you guys?
I really think that every position is going to have some challenges, and I think one of the things that we already mentioned earlier was we have to to mentor people for each and every role. You're going to have challenges, and when you come up against an obstacle that you don't understand, everyone in that room, someone has been a treasurer before, or a secretary before, or even the president before. You just have to ask. But we also need to recognize the signs. And for me, I'm going to talk here about being a treasurer, is when you bring on a new treasurer, and I guess because I've been a treasurer or an accountant forever, you recognize when somebody is struggling, and you need to intervene now. Because if you wait till the end of the year, there's going to be a lot more to it than you realize. So when you stick a brand new treasurer into that role, you need to be constantly asking that new member, that new treasurer, how's it going? Like, are there any questions? Do you need any help? Especially, we always seem to think that because the person is the treasurer, that they're the treasurer for every project. It doesn't have to be that way. He's the treasurer to keep the books for the club, and when a project comes along, you may have someone else dealing with the cash at that moment. It doesn't always have to be the treasurer that's dealing with the cash, and it shouldn't be.
No.
Another person should be counting it behind him or in front of him. And there's always those checks and balances, but you always have to ask a member, how is it going? Because you're going to lose them if they've come up against an obstacle and they don't ask. A lot of members quit the club.
Well, that's probably our biggest challenge throughout the organization, is keeping members, retaining. We, bring them out, but there's always conflicts or things that aren't going their way, and we inevitably lose them. So, and we see it at club level, zone level, district level, and national level. It's a struggle, and sometimes we win, sometimes we don't, and so we need to, when you're in a role of leadership, you need to keep it in mind that there's others out there that they may, like you say, they're struggling, or may need some help, or just may need to be able to lean on you as a mentor.
But I think a lot of times we don't jump in, we're not positive. We let them sink, and then they leave. And we don't leave. Why? Because we've been in here for so long. We have to step back. Again, I go back to, coming up 50. We need to let the younger people, we need to support them, and let them come up through the ranks.
Which takes to my challenge as a new member. When I became a new president, I was only 2 years in. My challenge was the negativity from the senior members. That I would run a meeting, and sometimes things would go awry, and I would bring it back to order, and then I would get home after running a 2.5-hour meeting, and then get a phone call from a more senior member beacon off about what happened at a meeting. Don't call me now. That negativity, that, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. You were there. Thank you for the support. Thank you for assisting to guide me. Not. Don't phone me with the negative. While we're in the meeting, as a senior member, when you have new members that are on council trying to run a meeting, help them out.
Like, what is wrong with having two of everything? Like, when, if me as being president, the past president should be there to guide me. And the past president should have the reign to jump in at any time when they think that maybe I'm losing control. And that has to be sort of worked out ahead of time. Like, Anita, tonight I'm running the meeting, you're the past president. If you feel that you can help me, just motion for a fire break, call me aside and respectfully say, Kelly, maybe get this
meeting back to order, this is, and then, because sometimes, as the new president, you don't even realize it's out of order.
Exactly.
And so, and that's the same as a treasurer, and that's the same as
Any
a secretary. At the end of the meeting, go to them and say, today when you reported on the minutes, they weren't quite right, and we forgot to adopt them, or whatever.
Mhm.
But again, do it respectfully, privately, and in a mentoring way, not in a negative
Not in a
way.
negative
Not
way.
where you're going to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Not where it's in front of everybody. And, pick your battles and
Yeah.
decide when and where you need to step in front of the crowd.
And as a president, I think we can go a long way by, we require positive reinforcement as much as the rest of our club does. So, thank you
Goes a long way.
goes a long way, right? How many times are we going about our kin meetings and our kin functions and blah, 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 and we see somebody doing something and we forget to say thank you. So I think that's a big thing as a president, if we instill that in our presidents to just remind themselves on a bi-weekly, a monthly thing to, we all do good of kin, and some people give gifts, or you stand up and do good of kin, but as a president, lead the way and make sure that at least every meeting you have one thing, one person to say thank you for. It may be your whole club because you've just finished a huge project, and you just say thank you for all of you that were there and supported this event, and we made this amount of money for our community, and so without you we couldn't have done it. Because that will turn around, and then the senior members will see that and will reflect that positivity, and it will carry forward as opposed to the negativity.
Another thing I found too when I did president the second time was sort of along the same lines as thank you. I had everybody's birthday. You know what? Send them a birthday card. You'd be surprised with how they treat you at the next meeting when they've got a birthday card in the mail.
Happy birthday now,
It was a
Dean.
thing. How old are you?
Oh, old.
I would like to see clubs set as a goal, because we've taken a lot of time here talking about all the issues and whatnot, but one of the things every club needs to do is, at the end, we seem to run through our meeting, get it over by 9, and I'm noticing our club that we're gone. We need to take that time to have a half an hour and play a game, or play a game of poker, or whatever. It's not fun anymore.
Well, in our club, we actually make our social ahead of time.
Okay.
We make it first. So we start our meetings at 6:30 and social starts at 6. So
How do you get them there at 6:30? Like, there's an issue for you.
well, we're in a boardroom.
We can't get our guys,
Yeah,
they should, it's, the old rules were happy hour, or social hour from 6:30 to 7 to 7:30 dinner, and then get into the meeting. Our guys don't come to have a happy drink together, and they'll show up at 10 after 7. You've tried to start the meeting, you've got no quorum, you're singing "O Canada" for what reason? Because four
So
guys
again,
are there.
remember, you need to, as the president, when you got everybody there, say, what is going to work better for us? Because at this point, that's a challenge for you. It's a challenge for me as the president to arrange my time, come here as a volunteer. Remember, I have a family too, but I'm here on time. Help to respect me, and I'll respect you. So tell me, would it work better if I didn't start the meeting until 7:30? Would it be better if I started the meeting at 6:30? We need to decide as a group what time we're going to come and be decisive and show up. And if you're not going to make it, we need to text or email or phone somebody to say you're going to be late so that we can respectfully start the meeting without you.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, time is money and time is valuable, and we're all incredibly busy. And whether you say yes, social from 6 to 6:30, it's not mandatory. I don't eat at my meeting. I eat with my family, and I show up at 6:30. And I do the meeting. We start the meeting, we order dinner, everybody else orders dinner at 6:30. They break for dinner at 7. So for me, when that half hour to 45 minutes is a break for dinner during the meeting, that's my social time with everybody. That's when I move around the table, that's when I'm social, have my glass of wine, I'll do that. For me, that works. For a lot of people, the 6 to 6:30. For most of us, staying after 9 o'clock is not conducive for family life, because we need to get home, we need to get up early, because we got to get kids off to school, we have to... So yeah, you have to look at the dynamics of your club. Again, looking at club dynamics, what's going to work for everybody. You know, and as a president, you don't make that decision for them, you put it back to your club and your membership and say, what's going to work? And it may vary from year to year, based on the dynamics of the club.
And I think one of the main things about being the president is you need to tap into why that person came and foster that. So if the reason that Paul has joined the Kinsmen is because he hasn't got any friends, okay? And that he's there to socialize, and he's only there to have a good time. And you know what? That's okay if that's why you're there. The other stuff will come. If the reason why you're there is because next year you want to run for the president of your union, and you want to understand how to run a meeting, how to, and know all the specifics and exactly how to deal with a group, I need to tap into that, and I need to foster that. And you need to go around the room and go back to why did each person join. You have to remember to check in at the beginning of the meeting, ask people how they're doing, so that you can understand a little bit better why they're late, or why they're miserable, or why they're just not themselves. At the end, I think that the big thing is remind everybody to learn, grow, make friends, and have fun, because that's what we're supposed to do.
Sociable.